If you take a look at population, for example, of South Charleston is 45% black. Police force, 18% black. An enormous divide in how African Americans are represented in their communities. How do we change that?
Absolutely, Alex. Well, part of the problem, of course, is that the police are often majority white, and the community that they allegedly serve is often principally African American in some of these communities like North Charleston, or as we saw in the case of Michael Brown in Ferguson. How do we change it? Well, I think part of it is encouraging people from communities of color to become members of law enforcement, to be recruited into law enforcement, to be mentored, and to be integrated into law enforcement so they can enhance the communication between the African-American community and the law enforcement community.
And something that we saw Ferguson try and do is they actually elected 2 African-American members to their local government. What is the power of local elections or the responsibility of local electors?
Absolutely. The responsibility of local elections, it's incredibly important. So much of criminal justice, Alex, is on the front lines at the city level and at the county level. Especially, we can talk a little bit about prosecutors. Most crimes in the United States are state crimes. They're prosecuted at the state level. And in turn, they're prosecuted by county prosecutors who are elected by the county. And if we can get a greater, to some extent, representation in the prosecutorial ranks by encouraging people to get out and vote and to do voter drives and other types of drives to encourage communities to vote and to elect people perhaps from their own communities, that could greatly increase the dialogue and perhaps justice.
And it just seems like there are a lot of things you can point to that are to blame: education, income inequality, social inequality. At what level does this need to be addressed? Is it state? Is it county? Is it federal?
I think at all of them, at all levels of our society. The absence of communication between different groups is startling, and it's a major problem. We no longer live in an era of segregation. You mentioned the Civil War. We no longer live in an era of formal legal segregation, but we don't have as much integration in society at every level that perhaps we should and we ought to have.
And another solution that has been floated, of course, is strapping cameras to cops. What do you think is that potential to solve this issue?
I think it could certainly help for a variety of reasons. It could help first and foremost because it could give us a sense about how often incidents like that occurred in South Carolina actually take place. Justice shouldn't depend on the fortuity of whether or not a bystander is available to capture the incident on video. If the police have body cameras, it could protect citizens, but it could also protect the police in other instances from potentially more dubious charges.
What do you think could be the strongest deterrent
to this type of activity?
Yeah.
I think it's happening now, which is awareness on the part of the public. The fact that we are now learning about these incidents, we have seen them. What could be more shocking than a video like the video that's come out with respect to Mr. Scott? Just by talking about it, learning about it, by educating citizens, educating the police, I think that could have the greatest impact. But, of course, we could also add to it through body cameras and other sort of specific evidence-based reforms.